This is actually a bit awkward, talking about the state of internet connectivity in Canada and the U.S. following Africa, Asia Pacific, and LAC, but I'll do my best. Generally speaking, it's true. Canada and the U.S. we are among the most connected nations in the world. 9 out of 10 North Americans have access to the internet, and when compared to other regions in the world, we are very, very fortunate to live where we live. However, those numbers, 9 out of 10 have access to the internet, actually mask an alarming digital divide in the two countries. Yes, the vast majority of our citizens have access to the internet, but there are pockets within Canada and the US that experience internet penetration rates that are significantly lower than national averages. And all too often, those pockets, the people who are excluded are those who could benefit most from the opportunities offered by the internet. I'm talking about Indigenous communities, talking about low-income inner-city neighborhoods, and talking about isolated and rural communities. Communities that, on any indicator you can pick, score the lowest, be it economic, be it health indicators, be it suicide, on any one you can name. Those are the communities that score the lowest in North America, and they're the ones who are least likely to have internet access. I believe it's the result of a few things. One is our vast and harsh geography. As someone who's traveled extensively through the Arctic regions of the world, it ain't an easy place to build out internet infrastructure, I can tell you for a fact. We also have a very low population density. Canada is the second largest nation in the world, 35 million people, right? Almost all of which live within 20 minutes of the U.S. border or something like that. Similar in the U.S., right? The U.S. is a large country, significantly larger population, but still among the lowest population density rates in the world. But in communities I'll talk about northern Canada because it's the ones I know the best. There are communities in the northern territory of Nunavut where fewer than 3 in 10 of citizens are online. 27% in the majority of communities in Nunavut. And just to say, the overwhelming majority of that population are actually Indigenous peoples. In the Northwest Territories, the territory right beside Nunavut, access can range from 90% in the large center of Yellowknife to 17% in some of the smaller communities. And in the States, it's not much better. A recent FCC report found that 41% of Americans living on tribal lands lack access to broadband. The geographic digital divide in North America is real, and it's excluding many people from enjoying the opportunities the internet has to offer. So building out the infrastructure is our first challenge in North America. Second, we've done a really good job at building the internet out in huge parts of North America. What we haven't done is a great job at equipping people with the skills and knowledge they need to be safe and successful online. And, you know, in Canada, we know that 5% of Canadians aren't using the internet. They may have access to it, but they're not using it. And we always say, well, that's, you know, it's affordability, it's income inequality, but it's actually not. That's not the reason why North Americans aren't using the internet if they have access to it. In fact, in 2015, a study in Canada by Ipsos Reid found that affordability is only a barrier for a very small fraction of those who aren't online. There are other more salient issues like Africa. It's relevant content. Those who, if you've got access, you're not accessing it, those who see the value of the internet in their lives will pay for it. Those who don't see the value in North America won't pay for it. Also, this is the issue of trust in North America. The NTIA recently found that nearly half of American internet users don't use the internet to its full potential simply because they don't trust that they're safe online. There's an emerging trust gap in North America that I think we need to address to ensure that we can get everyone using the internet effectively. The upshot is this: we have a digital divide in North America that we often overlook. We're making progress. There are many initiatives. There are far too many initiatives in Canada and the US to list aimed at bridging the divide. The Canadian government recently committed $500 million over the next 5 years. The CRTC, Canada's telco regulator, recently wrapped up a review of our basic telecom services to consider whether or not broadband should be included. In the U.S., there's the 2010 Broadband Initiative, the Connect All program. There's too many to name, but the one I'm particularly looking forward to is in May of 2017, the Arctic Economic Council will report to the Arctic Council on connectivity in Arctic communities, and looking at 2 minutes, and looking at best practices in connecting Arctic communities. But clearly, there's obviously a lot of work to do to ensure that everyone who has access will use the internet. But there's something missing for me in all of these initiatives that we can list for days. Expanding internet access to remote communities, enhancing internet usage in economically challenging areas is an incredibly challenging task. It's one that necessitates an approach that's not top-down, but rather collaborative. There are many stakeholders, everyone in this room, that need to be involved if we are to be successful. The technical community, the research community, private sector, community-based organizations, and to echo my fellow panelist from Africa, the people in the communities that we want to connect, right? They need to be a part of this conversation from day one, and of course, governments. But I don't necessarily see the role of governments as holding the purse for increasing access. It would take an astounding amount of money to connect all Arctic communities, to connect all communities in Africa. And governments don't have that money. They just don't. It's going to take, where there is a market-based solution, the private sector will have to step in. There are areas like remote Arctic communities where the market solutions simply won't work. Governments may have to step in, but by and large, connecting the final billion to the internet will be paid for almost entirely by the private sector. There is one very important role that governments can play, in my opinion, and that's in leadership, in articulating a vision for a connected North America or a connected world that multi-stakeholder community can rally behind, and ensure that we have a North America where no one is left out of the digital economy. My time is up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.